Douglas said something true and beautiful. He said that this is not a collaboration, it's a collision. And what I find extraordinary is that his vision lends me wings, and I hope that it's vice versa. And it's something which, it's a wonderful journey. I think that it has the potential to take the emotion to the next level, hopefully for all of us. Always hard to say something like this because it creates expectations, it's always dangerous. But it can do that. It's not something which is etched in stone. It's not something there is a recipe for. You can't replicate it. All you can do is be open to what the moment has to offer, but the moment is magnified in an undescribable way through what Douglas has created. There are so many lovely pieces. At the same time, as I was spending weeks and months with so many of those, I realized that most of the 20th century composers, and of course that's where you're going to find most pieces bearing a title to do with the element water. So even though Debussy would not like being referred to as an impressionist, he resented the term, but that's where you're going to find most of these pieces, so with Ravel, Fauré, and Debussy. I realized that most of them are more to do with the decorative, the aesthetic, the poetic, the atmospheric qualities of water. Very few deal with the violence and the destruction that the element can unleash on the world we know. So I had to start thinking about diversifying the program in a way which all of a sudden was not so easy to grasp, because I took it to different places. I took it back to Brahms in the original recital program I'm working on this season. But for the project here, I found it more and more important to reduce it to an essence, albeit a subjective essence. I tried to, first of all, I wanted one piece per composer, and I tried to go with the more stylized ones, the more abstract. I think that they leave more of a free field of vision and imagination than some of the others do, and that's why it finally boils down to this.
Most people come in here and look up because it's so vast and beautiful. I mean, it really. And Hélène is mostly looking down. And I wanted people to come in, look up, look down. I want people to look down, and then what they get from the down plane is exactly what they would get if they were looking up. So, call me a simpleton, but it's a kind of sophisticated way to make the architecture more present, because the way that you, as an audience, will behave with it.
Every time we work with artists, they come up with things that sometimes feel a little bit daunting, but that's about what we do. I mean, really the work we do here is very unusual and rather unconventional, and it tends to press the boundaries of even technology, if you don't mind me saying so. So in this particular case, the idea of flooding the drill hall was huge because it's a really big space. So we hired an engineering firm, Arup Engineering, who are one of the largest engineering firms in the world, and also known for working with artists. They'd worked with Anish Kapoor, they'd worked with Olafur Eliasson, and many other artists. Anyway, so they came in and they took on this problem.
The technical challenges are not ones that you face in your typical building. So, in fact, we had to invent a lot of new methodologies, if you like, to figure out how to create the lake, how to put the water in and take it out within the time frames that the artist was interested in. And some interesting sidebars as well. Steinway were very concerned about the humidity caused by the lake and what sort of impact that might have on the piano. So a little bit of study showed us that the best way to control the humidity would be to actually chill the water in the lake to between 50 and 55 degrees Fahrenheit. And so figuring out how to do all of that while at the same time moving the water between the temporary tanks that are in the anteroom to and from the lake, all of that was quite challenging and quite exciting, really. There was also a whole study of the materials that we could use to make the lake. And the concern there was that a lot of the typical materials that you might want to use would actually taint the water. They would either cause a chemical reaction, or there would be coloring that would come through, or particles that came out, and so on. So there was a detailed study of different materials, and the assembly that you see out there is made up of entirely of materials that will not impact the water. We start off with a layer of plastic right near the floor. On top of that, there's a layer of compressed board that has two purposes. Firstly, it'll even out any anomalies in the floor surface, but it will also have a certain amount of absorption should there be any leaks. Then on top of that, there's a continuous layer of pond liner, which actually forms the bottom surface of the lake. Now, on top of the pond liner, we have an array of CMU blocks that then act as the support system for the floor above. And the material of the floor that you actually see is something called Virock, which is a cementitious board. And the reason for that void that's formed by the CMU blocks is that we have a network of pipes that have to run down there as well to supply the water and take the water out. And so there needs to be a certain amount of void space underneath the surface that you see. One of the challenges with the floor is that it isn't actually level. This is the original Armory floor. However, when you create a lake, the laws of physics demand that the surface of the lake will be absolutely flat. So it was important for the success of this installation to make sure that the top surface that you see, the floor surface, is leveled to as close a tolerance as feasible. And so in order to do that, each of these CMU blocks that I mentioned earlier has to be shimmed up so that its top surface is consistent with the tolerance that we're trying to achieve for the leveling of the floor. And then when the Virock boards go on top of the pre-leveled CMU blocks, that floor is automatically level. The water circulation system basically starts off with the lake full of water, but to a level that's just below the upper surface. So the surface that you see is raised about 4 inches above the bottom of the lake. And water will typically be there just below that surface prior to the performance starting. So when the performance starts, various pumps are turned on that then start to pump water from temporary tanks into the lake. And this is done in such a way that the water gradually seeps up through cracks in the floorboards. And over a period of time, typically 30 minutes, the entire lake can be filled to a depth of about 2 inches.
The idea that tears become streams, become, how many times have you cried in your life? How much liquid have you given to the world? Probably a field of water, something like that. And I think that's, I don't think that that's tragic. I think it's really celebratory, actually. So I wanted to, if I'd had about 50 years to work on this piece, I would only just have cried a lot rather than use other water. But, so this for me represents that stuff. So that's my kind of fascination is that I can't stop it. So So we have to embrace the idea of water in some kind of way. Let's see what happens when we have water and music together. You know, when I was trying to describe this kind of this work to people before, someone said, you know, it's a lake, and I said, oh, it's a loch, because I'm Scottish. So it's a loch, and a loch in Scotland is a big field of water, and a loch in German is a hole. The hole is endless. Water starts to inundate this space, it will never be the same again. And as Hélène is playing, it will never be the same again. And I think this, trying to encourage people to realize that what they have right in front of their eyes or right in their ears will never ever happen again. That's quite beautiful, I think.
I think this is a great example of the kind of work, it's a very good example of the kind of work that we do here, that, you know, we ask artists to come in and just imagine things, and, you know, in a more formal setting, it's hard to kind of blow your brains out this far, and it is an interesting situation that we have here, that artists just keep pushing out those boundaries and keep thinking up new ways to look at that room. And you know, we've never set it up the same. We've done 34 productions now. It's never been set up the same. So it's always, it's really adventurous, although I would say 122,000 gallons of water in the drill hall was maybe one of the most adventurous we've ever done. So I look forward to the future. Let's see what the future brings.